Israel. First, I want to give all honor and glory to the Most High, Yahweh. Ba'ashema Mashiach Kwamadak Yahushua. Yahweh is the name of the Heavenly Father, who the world calls God, and Yahushua is the name of his only begotten Son, who the world inwardly calls Jesus the Christ. First, I want to give a strong shalom to all the mighty men that's going out there laboring, presenting their bodies as a living sacrifice, doing all they can to wake up the lost sheep of the house of Israel, enduring the elements, the 100-degree weathers, the freezing below colds, and everything that's trying to hinder the work of the Most High. I want to give another strong shalom to all the mighty Aqua, the sisters that are at home, reverencing their husbands, the unmarried sisters as well, being teachers of good things, tender, delicate, and on fire for the Most High. And last but not least, I want to give another strong shalom to all the mighty teenagers and children in the truth as well, doing all they can to make their calling and election sure in the last days. And by the topic of this video, the topic of this cold cut is titled, right, the pride of man. All right, I'm going to repeat that again. The topic of this cold cut is titled, the pride of man, man. Why? Because pride is an evil spirit on the left-hand side that the Most High has sent down to plague certain men and women in this truth, man. Right? And pride is not just something as people may think pride is. Pride gets very deep, man. Pride is very deep. It's mysteries to pride. It's different phases to pride. It's different sequences. Pride is one of the most top demons in the nation of Israel. And brothers and sisters got to know how to operate and how to cast that spirit off. Because when it's all said and done, the Most High is not of pride, man. The Most High is straight righteousness, humility, and long-suffering, and patience, and doing all he could do, and ultimately the fruits of the Spirit, and everything contrary to wickedness. So we have to go through these precepts, and we have to be able to go through these things and rebuke these spirits, man. So again, the topic of this cold cut is the pride of man, right? And shalom to all the mighty men and women tuning into the live. It's the pride of man. And what you're going to come to find out, the deeper you get into this truth, you're going to start to learn that pride is in everything. Everywhere is the spirit of pride. So when you walk down the street, it's pride. You could be at home in your household, pride is there. Pride is at your job. Pride is one of the most the most spirits that you see on a day basis. And another thing you're gonna come to find out is, man, as an individual, he has a high level of pride. All right, we're born, especially born into this wicked world and this wicked society. We're already born with a high level of pride. You probably had pride when you were in the world. You probably had an ego. Men knew who you were. You was a man of renown. You had clout, as they say. And the Most High don't care about none of that, man. Pride is going to get a lot of women and men destroyed, man. If you don't identify that spirit and rebuke it through the words of the Most High, pride is going to get a lot of people killed. And what you're going to come to find out is a lot of brothers and sisters in this truth are prideful. And the thing with pride is, you might even think that you're not prideful, but whole time you still prideful. That's how blind in the spirit of pride is. So again, the Most High is not dealing with pride. You got brothers and sisters operating in prideful spirits. You got men saying, well, I'm so-and-so of rank. You have to listen to whatever the hell I say. You have women saying, don't you know who I used to be? And the Most High don't care about that. You got men saying presumptuous things. You got men thinking they something when they really nothing. These are all the different attributes of pride. And we got to be able to let that stuff go, man. Let me bring this out. Let's kick it off with the book of Proverbs. All right. Let's kick it off with the book of Proverbs, chapter 29 and 23. All right. This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 29 and verse number 23. It reads, Slack it. It's the book of Proverbs, chapter 29 and 23. A man's pride shall bring him low. I'm going to read that again. It says, a man's pride shall bring him low. See, your pride is what's going to get you destroyed, man. A lot of you men, you're prideful, man. You're arrogant. You have a haughty spirit. A lot of women, you prideful. You don't think the Most High. You're not of a humble and contrite spirit. What's going to happen? The Lord is going to bring you low, man. The Lord has to humble you. Why? Because you're too prideful. And again, prideful is not just thinking that you're better than somebody all the time, right? That's just one aspect of pride. Pride goes a plethora of different ways. You prideful every time you don't read, man. You prideful every time you don't pray before you go to sleep and before you wake up. You're prideful every time you're not abounding in the work of the Most High. That's how pride goes, man. How are you prideful? You telling me the Most High woke you up this morning. He caused you to blink. He gave you different benefits. He gave you a leg to walk. He gave you the ability to call on his name. It's men when they wake up, they can't even call on the name of the Lord no more, man. It's men, they wake up, they're paralyzed. They can't speak anymore. They're deaf. They're dumb. And you telling me you're so prideful that although the Most High woke you up in the morning, yet you say, I don't want to pray because I don't feel like it. That's ultimately what you're saying, man. I don't want to read today because I'm feeling slothful. Or I'm not going to get that reading. I'm going to just take a nap. That's pride, man. Every time you don't hit up your brothers and sisters, that's being prideful. You're not operating in the fruits of the Spirit. So what's going to happen? Your pride is going to bring you low, man. A lot of women and men, they're going to be destroyed because simply of their pride. And the thing with pride is, that's all it takes is pride to be this small. Next thing you know, now you being destroyed, man. Now the Lord is taking his spirit from you. That's how deep pride goes. I'm going to read that again. It says, a man's pride shall bring him low, but honor shall uphold the humble in spirit. Meaning what? Before a man obtains honor, ultimately, a humble man, he's going to be brought forth to honor. The Lord is going to raise him up. So a man's pride is going to bring him low, but the humble is going to be exalted. And that's all throughout the Bible. You read about a plethora of accounts of men who were high-minded, they got brought low, and the men that was meek, they got brought up on high. And that's how the Most High operates, man. You got a lot of men want to exalt themselves. Let's go to 1 Peter, the 5th chapter. Right? Let's go to the book of 1 Peter, the 5th chapter. You got a lot of men trying to exalt themselves. And you're prideful every time you're trying to be somebody that you're not. The Lord hasn't created you that way. You got to be yourself, man. Stop trying to be what you see other men being like. Stop trying to envy a woman and you see how she operating. It's good to take on different characteristics. Nevertheless, you're not that person, man. You got to be yourself. Let's bring this out. This 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse number 5. It's the book of 1 Peter chapter 5 and 5. Likewise, ye younger, submit yourselves unto the elder. Yet all of you be clothed, be subject to one another, and be clothed with humility. For God resisteth the proud and giveth grace to the humble. And a lot of brothers, they wonder, dang, why is I'm not growing? Why do it feel like the Most High is not hearing my prayer? Why is I'm not increasing? Well, brother, because you probably prideful, man. Because you have a high level of pride. Again, we already stated that man off bat, it's like he's, for lack of better terms, man is built and he has pride built in inside him. But when you come into the truth, you got to cast that stuff off, man. So man already has a high level of pride built inside of him. So off bat, the Lord is not dealing with man. That's why the Lord has to bring them this knowledge, this truth. So the Lord resists the proud. Every time you think that the Most High is probably resisting you, he's rejecting you, that's probably because you're prideful. You need to check your spirit. A lot of you women, you don't even examine yourselves every day. Men, you don't examine yourself. You have to examine yourself every single day, man. It's called daily self-examination. If you don't have that into your routine and your schedule, you need to pick that up, man. You need to truly see how you operating, and you need to get on yourself before the Most High gets on you. Let's read on in that. It says, verse 6, Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time. So it says, humble yourselves, that the Most High may exalt you. But yeah, you have men want to exalt themselves. Yeah, let me do this real pat. Let me post this picture on Twitter so I could get such and such sudden likes. All right. Yeah, let me do this video so I can see how many views I get. All right. Let me do this so all the women can see me. That's how men is operating, man. Yeah, let me do this work so the brothers can see me and they could compliment me on this. You're not moving in the right spirit. You know how prideful that is? The Most High is not, the Lord is going to exalt you, man. Hey, I don't want to be exalted right now. Right now, I don't care about this present time. This stuff is temporary. I want to be exalted, Most High willing, in the kingdom, where that is really going to matter. Right, in the second wilderness, etc. I don't want to be exalted right now. So the Lord said, humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time. And when it's due time, you really putting in work, you serving the Most High with all sincerity and humility and humbleness of mind, then the Lord is going to exalt you. Yet you got man try to exalt himself, have the preeminence. Women trying to have the preeminence, try to be somebody that they're not. That's what the Most High said. Let's go to Galatians Chapter 6. All right. Let's go to the book of Galatians, the 6th chapter. All right, this is the book of Galatians Chapter 6 and verse number 3. I'm going to read this again. This is the book of Galatians Chapter 6 and verse 3. For if a man think himself to be something when he is nothing, he deceiveth himself. See that? So if a man thinks that he's somebody when he's not, he's deceiving himself. A lot of men, you're deceiving yourselves. You don't even know it. You're not playing. You're not fooling man. Well, you could probably fool man. That's only for a matter of time. You can't fool the Most High. Only thing you're fooling is yourself. You're playing yourself, man. Stop playing yourself. You're nothing. Let's go to, before we finish, before we go back to that, let's go to Sirach chapter 10. You're nothing. You're literally dust and ashes. Yet you have men want to be prideful. Men that's not diligent. Men that don't want to serve the Most High in sincerity and meekness. Men that take the truth and the knowledge that the Most High has given them and sitting on it. That's all equated with pride. Let's go to the book of Sirach chapter 10. A lot of you men, you need a reality check. It just is what it is. Even if you're going to watch this video, then you're still going to be prideful probably after. So, I mean, all this, the Most High needs to check you through the Spirit. That's the only way man is going to perceive it. Let's go to the book of Sirach, chapter 10, and verse number 9. It says what? Why is earth and ashes proud? I'm going to read that again. It says, why is earth and ashes proud? That's a rhetorical question. Is the dust literally proud? If I go outside and pick up some dust in my hand, is that the dust can't even talk, man. The dust is not prideful. The bird's not prideful. The grass, everything that's lowly is not prideful. Again, if I literally physically take my hand and get some dirt up, not that dirt can't even talk. The dirt doesn't even have a thought process. The dirt is not going to be prideful. Yet you have man, which is created from the dust, which is nothing but earth and ashes, yet he's prideful. Is the Lord dealing with that? The Most High is not dealing with that at all. Yeah, you have men thinking themselves to be something when they're not. You have men not teaching them women. They have the understanding, yet they're not teaching their women. Men doing their own thing. You have women doing their own thing, saying anything to their husbands. You have brothers that sowing discord. You have men that sowing discourse among the brethren, starting arguments. You have men that's literally saying evil and speaking evil to their own brother. You have men speaking evil to their wives. Wives, they speaking evil to their husbands. This is all equated with pride. I'm going to read that again. It says, why is earth and ashes proud? There is not a more wicked thing than a covetous man. That's it on that. The point I wanted is, why the hell are you prideful, man? When you're nothing but dust. See, that what you're going to come to find out, the Most High has to remind man that he's just dust. Because man is not going to get it. The Lord could have a man get into a car accident, flip his car 20 times, yet he still might not perceive it. That's how on a low level man is. But we commanded to be spiritual. We have to see these things and identify it and humble our soul before the Most High. Let's go to the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 8. Right? Let's go to the book of 1 Corinthians, the 8th chapter. It's the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 8, and verse number 2. And if any man think that he knoweth anything, he knoweth nothing, yet as he ought to know. Well, you have certain women, they think they know it all. Or they think they know something. They got done watching the video, now they puffed up and they think they know something. You have a lot of men, they get puffed up. You gotta get into a couple precepts. Now you think you know something. You don't even know a damn thing of what you ought to know. So we gotta constantly put the spirit of humility in rotation constantly. That's life, man. That's the real joy. That's what it's all about. Don't let the pride and the arrogancy and the egos and the ways, the pride is a part of the ways of the world. You read about that in 1 John, the 2nd chapter. Right, let's go to that. You don't let that stuff get you caught up and now you're something in the truth when you're really not it, man. The social status. Let's go to 1 John. Again, pride, that's a part of the ways of this world. It's the book of 1 John chapter 2 and verse number 16. I'm going to start at verse 15. Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, and the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. I'm going to read that again. And the pride of life is not of the Father, but is of the world. See, the pride of life is mentioned in this world, man. It's equated with this world. What's the pride of life? Everything that's haughty, man. Everything that's exalting itself. Whether that may be clothes, shoes, your house, your car. These different things could cause a man to be prideful. That's why Jake, he go spend $1,000 on some shoes. Next thing you know, he thinks he's the man. Or he go gets a gun. Now he's somebody he's not. These different things is equated with the spirit of pride. And that's of the world. We not of this world, man. We don't want to be of this world. We don't like this world. So let that stuff go. Humble down. If a brother came to you a certain way or a manner, a lot of you men, you will be contentious with him. That's pride, man. Why don't you humble down? Show humility. See, everybody, they want the wrong things, man. Again, men want the views, the women, the clothes, the money, the instant gratification. The women want to be seen in the truth. The women want to know it all like they're this mighty sister. The women want to just be doing God knows what and freaking off in the night. But nobody's chasing humility. Everybody want everything else. Nobody's chasing humility. Nobody's in a competition to see who can have the most patience. Men that compete for other things, but we guarantee Jake will try to compete for who got the most patience, who got the most long suffering, who has the most temperance. So you worried about the wrong things. We're not worried about that. We don't care about that, man. Let's go to the book of Proverbs, chapter 8. All right. Let's go to the book of Proverbs, the 8th chapter. It's the book of Proverbs, chapter 8, and verse number 13. It reads, Proverbs chapter 8 and 13. It says, the fear of the Lord is to hate evil. I'm going to read that again. The fear of the Lord is to hate evil. Pride and arrogancy and the evil way and the forward mouth do I hate. So you have to fear if you really had a fear of the Most High, you would hate evil. Not only that, you would hate pride. A lot of men, you don't hate pride. Instead, your actions show that you entertain it. You hang around it. You entertain that spirit, man. And we don't like being prideful. You really think certain men, they want to be prideful? No, that spirit creeps up on them. We hate those spirits, man. We hate those prideful spirits. We hate the spirit of arrogancy. We hate everything that's contrary to the Most High. We don't want to operate in this, man. But it's so heavily pushed and influenced in this world that you don't have no other choice but to get seduced by it. That's how it goes. But if you really fear the Most High, if you really fear the Lord, you would hate pride, evil, arrogancy, everything that's not of the Most High, everything that's not of righteousness. I'm going to read that again. It says the fear of the Lord is to hate evil, pride and arrogancy, and the evil way and the forward mouth do I hate, man. And we hate those things. Most High willing, he can increase our hatred towards those spirits so we can rebuke them. Because again, pride is going to get a lot of men and women. A lot of women and men is going to die. I mean, that's it, the both sides. Everybody's not going to make it. I don't know if I'm going to make it. That's why the Lord said, give diligence to make your calling and election sure. For if you do these things, you shall never fail. In 2 Timothy chapter 2 and 2 Timothy chapter 1 and 10, Salakia. In 2 Timothy chapter 1 and 10, the Lord said, give diligence to make your calling and election sure. So we don't know if we're going to make it. Yet what's going to stop a lot of men and women from making it is because they're too damn prideful. They don't want to humble down. You got certain men, they don't even want to confess their sins. Everybody confessing their sins, you're the only one that's still not confessing that demon you dealing with, the spirit you battling, whether that's to your wife. You've been with her for damn 8 years, you still don't want to confess your demon. Yeah, I want to deal with it by myself. You women, you're not confessing your sins to the Aquat, the sisters. You're not confessing your sins to your husband. You're just holding it to yourself. That's pride. What's causing them not to open up? What's causing them? What you think is causing them not to confess their iniquities? As the Bible says, that pride won't let them, man. The pride and their so-called reputation, it won't let them do what the Lord says. Let's go to James chapter 5. All right, let me get this quick precept in the book of James, the 5th chapter. It's that pride, man. That pride won't let him confess his sins. It's the book of Proverbs. It's the book of James, chapter 5, and verse number 16. It says, confess your faults one to another and pray for one another that ye may be healed. The effectual fervent of a righteous man availeth much. The Lord said you have to confess your faults. What is confessing your faults? That's synonymous. You have a worldly term called righting your wrongs. Men say, yeah, I had to right my wrongs. That's synonymous with confessing your faults. What are you righting your wrongs for? Everything that you did against the Most High. How you were a thief, a murderer, a fornicator, a adulterer, a weed smoker, a homosexual, a evil and wicked man. And even in the truth, yet man still don't want to confess his sins. Brother, you got to get that stuff off your chest, man. Now, we're not just saying tell everybody. We understand that. But there should be at least one brother you could confess your faults to, man. If you can't confess your fault, if you're not confessing your faults to nobody, Brother, it's something wrong with you. You're highly pride. You're high minded, man. You have a high level of pride. You telling me everybody else could confess their. Hold on, real fast before I say that. You telling me the Bible is telling you to do something, but yet you're not doing it. That's prideful, man. What did the Lord say? Let's read this. This is Iraq chapter 4 and verse 26. Be not ashamed to confess thy sins, and force not the course of the river. You can't be ashamed to confess your sins, man. We don't care what man thinks. If man thinks that makes you less of a man, that's man. We don't care. Hey, I'll confess my sins, right? I tell the brother where I'm going wrong at if I need help. Yet the pride of man won't let him to be able to do that. Next thing you know, he's not telling his woman. If you're in a relationship or a marriage, be a significant. I mean, you with him for the rest of your life. Why not build with each other? Why not let them know things? That's all because of pride. All right? All because of pride. And that's why the Lord said, let's go to Proverbs Chapter 16. Pride goeth before destruction, man. So again, a lot of men and women will be killed by the Most High due to their pride. It is what it is. Now you can say, well, hold on, Tazama. Who are you to say that? I mean, that's evil. I don't think God is like that. We saying if they don't repent and acknowledge that and cast that spirit off, they're gonna die in America. It is what it is. Because again, who are you to be prideful? You're nothing but earth and ashes. So a lot of men and women are gonna be killed due to their pride. Let's go to the book of, see what I want. Yeah, let's go to Proverbs 16. All right, this is the book of Proverbs chapter 16 and verse 18. Pride goeth before destruction, and an haughty spirit before a fall. What does it mean by pride goeth before destruction? Before a man gets destroyed, before destruction of man comes to a particular man or woman, they have to be prideful. I mean, there's no other way. A man is not going to be destroyed if he's being humble. It's just not going to happen. A man is not going to be destroyed if he's walking in the fruits of the spirit, if he's meek. Only way a man could be destroyed, or before a man is destroyed, he has to be prideful. I mean, because what's going to take the Most High to that point where he has to sit up there and destroy you? It's your pride. So the pride is a beginning of a lot of things. Let's go to Sirach chapter 10. But let's go to the book of Sirach chapter 10 and verse, man, this is a beautiful chapter dealing with pride, Sirach the 10th chapter. But this the book of Sirach chapter 10 and I'm going to start at verse 7. Pride is hateful before God and man, and by both doth one commit iniquity. So the Lord hates pride, straight up and down. Jumping down to verse number 12, Sirach 10 and 12. The beginning of pride is when one departed from God, and his heart is turned away from his maker. See that? So the beginning of pride, the first beginning stages of a pride, ultimately that person has went astray from their maker in some way, shape, or form. Whether that was not praying, that was not studying, they wasn't in the spirit for that moment. But that moment, your heart's being turned away, that's the beginning of where pride could kick in. Now you're saying things that ought not to be said to your wife, man. You disrespecting your husband. You saying things presumptuous to a brother. You offending one of the little ones. It's a brother just coming to this truth. I mean, that's off, man. It's a brother just coming into this truth, and you cracking jokes on him. What is you doing, brother? What are you cracking jokes on that brother for? You're tempting him with evil. You got certain brothers, they play around, even though we know they joking, but at the end of the day, I don't play around like that. You got certain brothers saying, well, hold on, what you eating? Brother just ordered a cheese pizza, and you saying, what you eating? Then you accidentally saying, is that some pork? You sure that's not pork? And the brother just came into the truth, man. That is all. What is having a man to say that? That's because of his pride. The Lord put a spirit on that man. Why? Probably because he wasn't reading. He probably went an hour without praying. He probably wasn't fasting. He didn't study the whole week. Them spirits hop on him. Now you offending a little one. All because of your pride. You offending your children, your woman. A lot of you, man, you gotta examine yourself, man. You gotta humble yourself before the Lord does the humbling. And when the Most High does the humbling, that's not gonna be nothing nice. The Lord is gonna give you a lot of you men need a reality check. A lot of women need a reality check, all for your pride. I'm gonna read that again. This is Sirach 10 and 12. The beginning of pride is when one departed from God, and his heart is turned away from his maker. For pride is the beginning of sin, and he that hath it shall pour out abomination. The beginning of sin is pride. Imagine that. It's gonna call, and that's why it says, it says, he that hath it, meaning you have pride, shall pour out abomination. You're just gonna pour out things, man. Again, things that don't need to be uttered. All right? Some things don't need to be said, man. Keep that stuff to yourself. Again, you offending the little ones. You damn talking to your wife any type of way. All of this stuff is equated with pride, man. All right, let's read on. It says, and therefore the Lord brought upon them strange calamities and overthrew them utterly. That's why you see a brother going to a strange calamity. A brother down, not saying, we're not going to joke around like this, but this is true stories. You got brothers, you might have you might have fell off a ladder at your job. All right, then you tell brothers they down. They like, damn, how you fall off a ladder? You got certain brothers in the truth, they fell off a balcony, right, and broke their arm. Certain men, they got into a car accident and their car flipped 5 times, maybe 20 times. All right, you got women. Just stuff is strange things. You're like, what the hell? Women down, she might have down fell off a roller coaster, right? This is a strange calamity. That's not common. All right, that's the Lord doing that. The Lord is brought upon those people strange calamities. Why? Because they probably was prideful. It says what? And overthrew them utterly. Pride is going to get a lot of men overthrown. Even in judgment, in a king. Reading on, verse 14. The Lord have cast down the thrones of proud princes and set up the meek in their stead. And again, like I said earlier, that's not the first account. It's a plethora of accounts in the Bible of the Most High casting down prideful kings, casting down prideful princes, and replacing them with meek men. What do you think? What do you think happened to Judas Iscariot? He killed himself, man. What happened after that? The Most High had ultimately Mattathias take his place when you read Acts the 1st chapter 23 on down. So Judas Iscariot got replaced. Why? He was prideful. What do you think happened to King Saul? Did King Saul just disappear and we don't read about Saul anymore? No, King Saul died, man. Ultimately, the Lord rejected him from his king. The Lord cast down his throne and set up David, who is meeker than him, who is better than him. What do you think happened to these different men? What do you think happened to King Nebuchadnezzar? You think the king, And King Nebuchadnezzar, he had what you call a monarchy, man. When whatever the king says, that goes. That's why, in my personal opinion, the Babylonian Empire is one of the strongest empires in history, in my opinion. Just because not a lot of civilizations have what you call a monarchy, where it says when the king says something, that's what goes. And when you read Daniel the second chapter, the Babylonian Empire is also referred to as the head of gold, and gold is a very it's the highest valuable metal. It's valuable than silver, gold, etc. That represents the strength of the Neo-Babylonian Empire. It was at the top. It was the head of gold. Guess what? The Lord cast down King Nebuchadnezzar. Let's get that account. Let's get that in Daniel the 5th chapter. All right. Let's get that in the book of Daniel. All right. This is the book of Daniel, chapter 5. And I'm going to just start at verse 18. This is the book of Daniel, chapter 5 and 18. It says, O thou king, the Most High gave Nebuchadnezzar thy father a kingdom, and majesty, and glory, and honor. And for the majesty that he gave him, all people, nations, and languages tremble and fear before him, whom he was slew. See that? So Nebuchadnezzar, the Lord was using King Nebuchadnezzar in the Neo-Babylonian Empire, all right, to take down Jerusalem, to besiege it, to ultimately cast down King Hezekiah, King Zedekiah. It's like not King Hezekiah, King Zedekiah, to destroy the Egyptians. So the Most High was using the Babylonian Empire. All nations at one point in time, they feared King Nebuchadnezzar. It says, whom he would slew, and whom he would have kept alive, and whom he had set up, and whom he would have put down. But when his heart was lifted up, and his mind hardened in pride. A lot of you men, your heart get lifted up. My brother say, yeah, you've been on fire. You've been in the spirit. You've been on fire. You've been diligent, brother. All praise to the Most High. A lot of brothers, you say, damn, I have. Yeah, man. Hey, I kind of have been putting in work. Then next you know, you start liking when brothers call you mighty. Hey, we don't care about that, man. We want the Lord to call us mighty. We want the Most High to say, well done, thou good and faithful servant. That's what we don't want to hear. You brought it out mighty. It's all praises to the Most High. Anyway, the Lord did it, not me. Nevertheless, we want to hear good job, well done, my good and faithful servant. That's the words we want to hear. A lot of men, but your heart gets so prideful, your heart get lifted up to your destruction. That's what happened with Nebuchadnezzar. His heart was lifted up. It says, but when his heart was lifted up and his mind hardened in pride. Every time you don't listen to the Most High, you're prideful. The Lord could be telling you to go in this direction. Follow this. Abstain from lust. Abstain from appearances of evil. Make sure you're praying consistent. The Lord might even come to you in a dream, but you still don't get it. So guess what the Most High got to do to you? He was disposed from his kingly throne, and they took his glory from him. Who took his glory? The Lord took his glory. Again, King Nebuchadnezzar, he was up there, man. Guess what? The Lord took his throne. And in this truth, we're kings. The Most High could take your kingly throne, your kingly glory. The Lord could take your princess-like estate and take it from you, man. Because you can't understand that you need to serve the Lord with all humility of mind. And walk with your head down in the truth. It says what? And he was driven from the sons of men, and his heart was made like the beast, and his dwelling was with the wild asses. They fed with him like grass, like oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, till he knew that the Most High God ruled in the kingdom of men, and that he will appoint over it whom he willed. See that? So the Lord had to humble him. That's why when you read in Daniel, the 4th chapter, Nebuchadnezzar, he literally was eating amongst the beasts of the field, like a damn animal, like a caveman. Who had that to happen? The Lord do that. It took for that to happen for Nebuchadnezzar to realize, damn, the Most High he is the Most High God. I am nothing. I'm just a vessel that the Most High is using. It says, verse 22, and thou his son, O Belshazzar. So you have Belshazzar, man. What some people say, I'm saying that's the son of Nebuchadnezzar. Some people say that's the grandson of Nebuchadnezzar. Nevertheless, Belshazzar, hast thou not humbled thy heart, though thou knewest all this? But thou hast lifted up thyself against the Lord of heaven, and they have brought the vessels of his house before thee, and thou and thy lords, thy wives, and thy concubines have drunk wine in them. And thou hast praised the gods of silver and gold, of brass, iron, wood, and stone, which see not, nor hear, nor know, and the God in whose hand thy breath is, and whose are all thy ways, how is thou not glorified? Every time you don't glorify the Most High, you're prideful. All right? You got brothers saying, yeah, I just want to, you got brothers telling other brothers to magnify the name of the Most High. Yeah, brother, you better magnify the name of the Lord. Sister, you better magnify the name. You better glorify the name of the Lord. Brother, you not even glorify the name of the Lord yourself. If you're not magnifying the name of the Most High, you are prideful. You need to check yourself. You're not prideful because, again, the Lord, you telling me the Lord woke you up this morning. He gave you benefits. You're able to call on his name, but you still won't magnify him. Ultimately, because you don't feel like it. You're quote unquote, that slothful demon came upon you. How many times is you going to let that slothful demon overtake you? That's just for an excuse. Nevertheless, if you're not glorifying the name of the Lord, according to Daniel chapter 5 and 23, you're being prideful. Now let's go to the book. Let's go back to Sirach chapter 10. So, it's a lot of men that was cast down due to their pride. King Solomon, his heart wasn't perfect like David, his father. In 1 Kings chapter 11 and 4. The Lord cast down the wisest man of all time. That just shows you it's not about how much wisdom you have. It's about how are you applying that wisdom. So that just show you it's not about the mightiest, the tallest, the man that knows it all. You can still be prideful and have all of the wisdom. Knowledge puffeth up. But let's read on. Sirach chapter 10 and 15. The Lord hath plucked up the roots of proud nations and planted the lowly in their place. The Lord overthrew countries of the heathen and destroyed them to the foundations of the earth. He took some of them away and destroyed them, and have made their memorial to cease from the earth. Pride was not made for men, nor furious anger for them that are born of a woman. So the Lord didn't create pride for man. You think the Lord created pride for Adam so it could be given over to that spirit? Next you know he doing God knows what. The Lord didn't create that for man. The Lord created man in righteousness. You read Genesis 1 and 26, the Lord created man in his image. So, that wasn't created for man. Nevertheless, it was given over into man due to his rebellion. It says, verse 19, they that fear the Lord are a sure seed, they that love him, an honorable plant. They that regard not the law are a dishonorable seed. They that transgress the commandments are a deceivable seed. All right. So see that? And that's all, again, that's all equated with the spirit of pride. And ultimately, you having a reprobate mind. Let's go to the book of Proverbs chapter 11. All right, let's go to the book of Proverbs, the 11th chapter. This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 11, and verse number 2. When pride cometh, then cometh shame, but with the lowly is wisdom. So you should be ashamed of yourself if you're prideful. That's what it's ultimately saying. You look that up in a different translation, I believe it says pride causes a man to be shamed, paraphrasing. All right, or ashamed. So ultimately, when pride cometh, then cometh shamelessness, man. And ultimately, you should be ashamed of yourself. You should be embarrassed. Because again, who are you? We're vanity. Let me actually get that quick precept. Let me get this in Psalms 39:4. All right, quick precept on that. It's the book of Psalms, chapter 39, and verse number 4. Lord, make me to know my end and the measure of my days, where it is, that I may know how frail I am. Hey, David wanted the Most High to tell him, Lord, let me know how long I'm gonna live, that I may know how frail I am, how I'm nothing. If the Lord told you the exact day, hour, minute, second, and millisecond you were gonna die, you know how humble man would be? You know how much of a hedge you'll walk down with? Hey, brothers know, for the brothers that know, if you've been in a situation where you felt like you was finna die, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, you just gonna be, your mind is not even gonna be, it's like you in a different state of mind. You're not thinking about the things of the world. You're not giving over to these seducing spirits. You're in a whole nother ball. It's like your mind, your mentality changed. Because you know how much time you got left. That's equivalent to Yahweh Shai. Hey, when you read Matthew chapter 11 and 29, Yahweh Shai was meek and lowly. Now, ultimately, that's just the characteristics that he have, him being the son of man. Nevertheless, you got to think about it. Yahweh Shai knew the exact day, second, millisecond, how he was going to die. I mean, when he was going to die and how he was going to die. So that's automatically all back. That's going to let you know, like, damn, what else do I have left here? Or dang, man, let me finish this work. He knew it was at stake. All right. And him being a son of man, that's a humble position to fit himself in. So again, if the Most High told a lot of you women and men how you were going to die and when, I mean, all of that pride would be dropped immediately, and you know it. So why should it have to take for the Most High to do that for you to humble down? I thought the Lord said in Proverbs 27:1, boast not thyself of tomorrow, for thou knowest not what a day may bring forth. Or Ecclesiastes chapter 9:11, for man knoweth not his time. We don't know when we going to die. We don't know when the Most High is going to command our spirit to go back into the third heaven. These things we don't know. Why not operate in a spirit of humility? Why not cast that to the side? See, that's the pride. Man can't let it go. The pride won't let him. All right? The pride won't let him. Let's go to the book of Romans chapter 12 and verse 16. It's the book of Romans chapter 12 and verse number 16. Romans chapter 12 and 16. Be of the same mind one toward another. Mind not high things, but concede to men of low estate. Be not wise in your own conceits. See that? So the Most High said what? He said, be of the same mind one toward another. Mind not high things. One of the reasons why you continually giving over to the spirit of pride, you minding high things. What is high things? That's the things that's highly esteemed of this world. Quick precept, let's go to Luke chapter 16 and 15. And we're going to go back to that. It's the book of Luke chapter 16 and verse 15. It says, and he said unto them, ye are they which justify yourselves before men, but God knoweth your hearts. For that which is highly esteemed among men is abomination in the sight of God. Everything that's highly esteemed amongst men, the Lord hates it. What's highly esteemed amongst men? Pride. Not only that, the views, the instant gratification, being seen, the fame, the clout, the clothes, the money, the women, your social status, not having it. All of these things men exalt. Being an evil man. You got this, it was this one Eve. She went off today, but she talking about shit. Jake was going off too, but I'm at work and you have nothing but a lewd sexual conversation going on right next to me. You have Eve talking, Jake flirting with Eve. Eve's talking about, yeah, I like buff guys. See, what, that's highly esteemed. When did in the Bible say like buff guys? Like men that's strong. I thought the Lord said favor is deceit, but beauty is vain. What about your spirit? So all of these things people hide. You got Jake say, yeah, I like a woman that can hold it down. Or I like the light-skinned woman with the braces on. That brace face spirit. All of that stuff is highly esteemed. In the sight of the Most, you really think the Most High care about a daughter of Zion that's light-skinned with braces on, with braces in her mouth? You think the Most High care about that? The outer appearance, or do he care about her spirit? Because she could be light-skinned with braces, but she's evil. She's an evildoer. So that's why it says those things which are highly esteemed amongst men is an abomination in the sight of the Most High. Majority of the stuff that's esteemed, the Lord don't give a damn about it. Let's go back to Romans chapter 12 and verse 16. Be of the same mind one toward another. Mind not high things, but consent to men of low estate. You want to consent to a man of low estate. Hey, me personally, I love being around men that's humble. Men that's meek, man. Men that's not really, you feel me? The men that's in the cut. Men that's sitting by themselves. Hey, I'll hang around that, brother. Why? Because there's nothing attached to it, man. Versus then you hanging around men that's highly esteemed. Because what's going to come with it? Pride. You want to consent to a man of a low estate. It says, be not wise in your own conceits. Let's link that up. Let's go to Philippians chapter 2. Let's go to the book of Philippians, the second chapter. This is the book of Philippians chapter 2 and verse number 3. Let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, but in lowliness of mind. Let each esteem other better than themselves. You got to ask yourself, every brother and sister you see in the truth, do you esteem them to be better than you? Right? Do you look at them brothers and sisters that they're better than you, that you're not better than them? A lot of men, yeah, I've been in this thing longer. Right? I'm not trying to say I'm better than them, but I'm just saying I've been in this thing longer. The Lord not dealing with that. Hey, I told the brothers, man, if we could write a list of all the men and women that labor in this truth, all the men that labor, without it be a lot, but all the men that have labored and the servants of the Lord that have went out and taught and waked up the people, if the Most High was to make a list, humbly speaking, I just put myself at the bottom. All right? I'm Most High willing, I just put my name at the bottom so I could be the last one. That's what esteeming every man above you and not esteeming other men better than themselves. And the Lord is coming back for the lowest, the humblest man, to exalt him, man. All right? Some of the 144,000, Matthew 5 and 5, the meek shall inherit the earth. Men want to talk about the 144,000. With 144,000, that's going to be some of the meekest men you will ever meet in your life. And men that's humble. So you have to count what's at stake here, man. Let's go to the book of 2 Chronicles. All right. Let's go to the book of 2 Chronicles chapter 32. It's the book of 2 Chronicles chapter 32 and 25. It says, "But Hezekiah rendered not again according to the benefit done unto him, for his heart was lifted up. Therefore was wrath upon him and upon Judah and Jerusalem." Right? So Hezekiah got high-minded. And sometimes that might happen. Again, nobody's perfect. Nevertheless, you want to get rid of those spirits. So you might get high-minded sometimes. But you have to check that spirit at the door. Hezekiah didn't just get high-minded like King Uzziah, then he did something presumptuously. Hey, King Uzziah, man, he walked into the temple, tried to burn the altar of incense. You know how prideful you got to be to do that? Nevertheless, King Hezekiah, he was prideful. It happens sometimes. This is what King Hezekiah did, though. Verse 26, "Notwithstanding, Hezekiah humbled himself for the pride of his heart, both he and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, so that the wrath of the Lord came not upon them in the days of Hezekiah." So what Hezekiah did, he perceived that he was prideful. He instantly checked it and humbled himself. That's the step-by-step process you have to do. Pray that the Lord take away the spirit of pride from you. Pray that he clothe you with humility, man. You have to check that immediately. In my opinion, personally, you got a lot of spirits in the third heaven on the left-hand side. But me personally, I believe, this is just me speaking as a man, I believe that pride is the number one demon on the left-hand side. I mean, you got certain brothers, they say, well, I don't know, it might be lust, it might be sexual lust, it might be slothfulness. But in order to indulge in those things, you have to be prideful. So again, me speaking as a man, personally, pride, it has to be, I mean, I believe pride is the number one, just because it's so many different aspects. And not only that, you could get blinded by the pride. So you get that spirit coming upon you, you have to check yourself immediately, and you have to humble down. Whether that's by praying, going through the different precepts. You know what I mean? You have so many precepts on humility. Why not go through it? All that, in order for you to check that pride, you have to examine yourself. Let's go to Daniel chapter 4 and 37. All right. Let's go to the book of Daniel chapter 4 and 37. In order to even recognize that, you will have to have, you would have to examine yourself. This is Daniel 4 and 37. "Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol the honor the King of heaven, all whose works are truth, and his ways judgment, and those that walk in pride, he is able to abase." So the Most High is able to abase anything that's prideful, any man. How would Nebuchadnezzar know this? I mean, if anything, he got humbled by the Lord. So if anything, he would know. He would know what it feels to be humbled by Yahweh, by Shema Mashiach Yahushua. And I'm just telling you now, that's not a good feeling, man. That's not nothing to be proud of. The Lord have to humble you. Hey, man, that's scary, man. You might die. It might take for you to be humbled by dying. It might take the Lord to take the spirit away from you. He might have to plague you mentally. He might have to take away your understanding. And you don't want to let the Most High humble you, man. You want to examine yourself and be humble before the Most High humble you. Let me get a couple more. I'm going to wind down. Let's go to 2 Corinthians. This is 2 Corinthians chapter 13, verse number 5. 2 Corinthians 13 and 5. "Examine yourselves, whether ye be in the faith. Prove your own selves." So the Lord said, examine yourselves. You have to go over daily examination. Examination is beautiful, man. There's so many things you could get from examining yourself. It's just, that's beautiful in itself. You have to examine yourself. Whether ye be in the faith, prove your own selves. Know ye not your own selves? How that Hamashiach Umarak Yahushua is in you, except you be reprobates. So you have to examine yourself. Why? Because you examining yourself, a lot of your sins could be checked right at the door if you examine yourself. Let's go to Lamentations chapter 3 and verse 40. This is the book of Lamentations chapter 3 and verse 40. Let us search and try our ways and turn again to the Lord. So you have to search yourself, man. You have to try your ways. You have to ask yourself, are you operating in the spirit according to the precepts? If not, guess what you have to do? Read on. Let us lift up our heart with our hands to God in the heavens. See that? So you got to check that spirit immediately. Pray to the Most High. Ask him to remove that and walk accordingly in the spirit of humility. But with that, we're giving all honor and glory to the Most High Yahweh. Ba'ashem Mashiach Umarak Yahushua. Most High willing, this video is edifying. Continue to read, pray, fast, and study. And most importantly, beseech the Heavenly Father for his mercy. And with that, I'm going to say shalom.